You're walking down the street, thinking about someone you haven't spoken to in years. Just then, your phone buzzes, and it's them. You freeze. Goosebumps rise. You glance around like the universe is playing tricks on you. But deep down, something tells you this isn't just random. Something aligned. Experiences like this are surprisingly common. They catch us off guard, defy logical explanation, and leave us questioning the very nature of reality. Most people shrug them off as coincidence. Others see them as signs. But growing numbers of researchers, thinkers, and seekers are beginning to suggest a bold idea. There may be a real, observable phenomenon behind these moments. One that reveals something profound about consciousness, intention, and the hidden structure of the universe. This is synchronicity, a term coined by Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. It refers to meaningful coincidences that occur with no direct causal link, yet feel deeply connected. And the more you start noticing them, the more they seem to multiply. A song plays on the radio that perfectly mirrors your mood. A book randomly falls off the shelf containing the answer to a question you've been silently asking. A stranger utters the exact phrase that was echoing in your thoughts only moments before. Synchronicity doesn't just challenge our understanding of cause and effect. It suggests that reality itself might be more responsive, more participatory, and more intelligent than we've been led to believe. In this video, we're not here to trade in vague spirituality or empty platitudes. We're going to explore synchronicity from multiple angles: psychology, neuroscience, quantum theory, and systems science. We'll break down what's happening beneath the surface when your thoughts and your world seem to converge. Is your mind shaping your reality? Is your attention activating unseen patterns? Are there mechanisms, both cognitive and cosmic, that help explain these events? Here's what you can expect. We'll begin by clarifying what synchronicity truly is and how it differs from random chance. We'll then explore how the mind acts as a pattern-detecting machine, searching for meaning and connection in the chaos. From there, we'll journey into the quantum realm to examine whether the behavior of particles and reality itself might be influenced by your awareness. We'll look at how emotions and focused thought might have measurable effects on physical systems. We'll explore the practice of manifestation and how it may relate to synchronicity. Finally, we'll talk about how you can cultivate this state in your own life, not through superstition, but through awareness, intention, and mental alignment. Synchronicity isn't magic. It's not luck. It's not fantasy. It might just be one of the most underappreciated forces influencing your life every single day. And by the end of this video, you'll see the world around you and your role within it in a way that may forever alter how you move through reality. So stay with us, because everything you thought was just coincidence might be so much more. Let's start where it all begins, with what's really hiding behind what we call coincidence. Throughout history, humans have noticed patterns in nature, behavior, and chance. But not every pattern is purely mathematical. Some seem to carry messages. Carl Jung described this phenomenon not as causality, but as a meaningful connection, when events align in a way that feels deliberate, even when no physical link exists between them. He called it synchronicity. This isn't about superstition or magical thinking. Jung was a psychiatrist grounded in analytical psychology. He observed that clients often experienced emotionally charged coincidences during times of inner transformation. A thought would arise, and something external would mirror it in an uncannily accurate way. To Jung, these weren't flukes. They were signposts of a deeper reality where psyche and matter intersect. Let's break this down. On one hand, we have coincidence, two or more events happening together with no apparent connection. Like running into someone you know in a city neither of you live in. Mathematically improbable, sure, but still within the realm of chance. Now contrast that with synchronicity. Here, the events aren't just statistically rare, they're emotionally or psychologically significant to you. The alignment carries meaning. It resonates. You don't just notice it, you feel it. It's as if reality responded to your internal state. There's a subtle distinction here, but it's essential. Coincidence is cold, impersonal. Synchronicity is warm, almost intimate. It involves you, not just as an observer, but as a participant in a meaningful exchange with the world. So where does this meaning come from? Is it something the mind projects onto random noise? Or is it something that actually exists in the structure of events? To explore this, we have to consider systems theory. In systems thinking, nothing exists in isolation. Everything is part of an interconnected web. An ecosystem, a weather pattern, a human brain, these are all complex systems where small changes in one part can influence outcomes across the whole. Feedback loops, interdependence, and emergent patterns are hallmarks of such systems. When you begin to see the universe not as a machine, but as a living system, fluid, dynamic, sensitive to influence, synchronicity stops being strange. It starts to make sense. Just as a flock of birds moves in unison without a leader, or your body coordinates millions of functions without conscious effort, so too might events in your life align in ways that reflect deeper organizing principles. From this perspective, reality is not just a backdrop. It's responsive. It has structure and intelligence embedded within it, subtle but detectable when the mind is attuned. Let's go a step further. Studies in chaos theory show that even highly unpredictable systems can exhibit underlying order. Think of the weather, chaotic, but still governed by patterns. Or fractals, infinitely complex yet driven by simple mathematical rules. This suggests that what appears random on the surface may actually be part of a greater, invisible order. Synchronicity may be an expression of this hidden order, an interface between your internal state and the external system in which you're embedded. When your thoughts, emotions, or energy align with certain conditions in that system, events may unfold in ways that feel orchestrated. Importantly, synchronicity often shows up in moments of emotional intensity, decision-making, or personal crisis. That's not a coincidence. When your internal landscape shifts through intention, stress, or awareness, it might ripple outward, subtly influencing how external circumstances arrange themselves. Now, is this influence direct? Does thought literally alter matter? We'll explore that question more deeply soon. But even if the mechanism is indirect through perception, attention, or resonance, it still means that your subjective experience plays a role in shaping what you notice and perhaps even what unfolds. This idea is gaining traction not just in psychology but in interdisciplinary science. Fields like cybernetics, complexity science, and consciousness studies are all beginning to probe the possibility that we are embedded in a participatory universe, one in which observer and observed are not separate. So the next time an unlikely event carries an uncanny message, resist the urge to dismiss it. Consider the possibility that your experience, your emotional state, your questions all might have intersected with a broader pattern. And in that moment, you weren't just witnessing the world. You were in dialogue with it. Still with us? Good. Because if meaning can emerge from this hidden order, then the next logical question is, how does your mind detect it? How does the brain pick up on these patterns that others might miss entirely? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. Your brain is not just a passive processor of information. It is an active pattern-seeking system, constantly scanning the environment for relationships, meaning, and connections, even when none are obvious. This evolutionary skill helped early humans survive by recognizing faces, tracking animal behavior, and detecting subtle shifts in their surroundings. But this same mechanism may also play a central role in how you experience synchronicity. The human brain is wired to identify order in chaos. Whether it's connecting constellations in the sky or hearing familiar words in random noise, this ability to make sense out of the seemingly senseless is foundational to our perception of the world. In neuroscience, this is known as pattern recognition, a core function of cognition. It's not limited to visual or auditory data. It also applies to thoughts, feelings, memories, and external events. At the center of this process lies a structure known as the reticular activating system, or RAS. Think of it as your brain's personal filter. The RAS determines what information gets through to your conscious awareness out of the millions of sensory inputs bombarding you every second. Without it, you'd be overwhelmed. The RAS doesn't just filter based on relevance, it filters based on focus. When you start thinking about buying a certain type of car, suddenly you begin noticing that model everywhere. The cars didn't magically appear. Your attention simply shifted your perceptual filter. Your brain began selecting that information from the chaos of daily experience. Now apply this to synchronicity. When your mind becomes attuned to a question, desire, or concern, your RAS begins to prioritize information aligned with that focus. You begin noticing things you'd otherwise ignore. This can create a sense that the world is responding to you, because in a very real way, your brain is now highlighting specific elements of reality that resonate with your internal state. But it doesn't end with attention. Belief plays a powerful role as well. Beliefs shape perception by establishing mental frameworks, what psychologists call schemas. These schemas influence how you interpret what you see, hear, and experience. If you believe the universe is cold and indifferent, you're more likely to dismiss strange coincidences. If you believe reality is intelligent and interactive, you're more inclined to see those same events as meaningful. In both cases, the external events may be identical, but your interpretation, and therefore your experience, differs completely. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean everything is a construct of your mind. It means your brain acts like a lens, tuning into certain frequencies of reality while filtering out others. In this way, it operates like a radio, amplifying some signals while muting the rest. This filtering process can become so powerful that it literally rewires your experience of the world. Through a process known as neuroplasticity, the brain adapts to repeated thought patterns and emotional states. Over time, the more you focus on synchronicity, the more you expect meaningful connections, the more your brain learns to seek and recognize them. You're not hallucinating. You're just training your cognitive system to pick up on more subtle correlations. To you, the world starts looking more alive, more in sync. Others may see randomness, but you're seeing structure. This shift in perception can have a profound effect on your mindset, motivation, and overall experience of life. Let's take it further. Your brain isn't working in isolation. It's part of a dynamic mind-body system. Emotions have a powerful influence on perception. Heightened emotional states, such as awe, fear, love, or deep curiosity, can sharpen awareness and make you more sensitive to connections. This may explain why synchronistic experiences often happen during times of transition, emotional intensity, or focused intention. In these moments, your entire system is activated. Your attention narrows, your senses heighten, and your mind becomes more receptive to unexpected connections. This creates the ideal environment for synchronicity, not because reality changes, but because your ability to notice and interpret patterns increases. Let's consider another layer, the role of unconscious processing. Research shows that the vast majority of cognitive activity happens below the level of conscious awareness. Your brain is constantly scanning, calculating, and matching input against a massive database of memory and association. This means that you often become aware of connections only after your subconscious has already linked them together. For example, you might suddenly feel compelled to take a different route home. On that route, you encounter someone or something significant. Only later do you realize that your intuition, your unconscious pattern recognition, was steering you toward an alignment that your conscious mind couldn't yet see. This isn't mystical. It's how intuition often works. As a result of massive, silent computations that boil up as feelings, hunches, or spontaneous actions. Synchronicity may, in part, be your mind responding to these subtle signals and recognizing their reflection in the world around you. This ability is deeply human, but it varies in strength. People who score high in openness to experience, a personality trait identified in psychological research, tend to report more synchronistic events. They are more sensitive to nuance, more likely to explore abstract ideas, and more willing to see value in uncertainty. These traits create fertile ground for synchronicity to emerge, not necessarily because more events happen, but because more connections are perceived. And here's where it all ties together. The mind doesn't merely observe patterns. It seeks them. It emphasizes them. It even creates them. In doing so, it constructs a subjective map of the world that is deeply personal and often surprisingly accurate in detecting meaningful relationships. So when you experience synchronicity, it's not just about what's happening outside of you. It's about how your inner world is organizing information, aligning perception, and guiding attention toward resonance. It's not hallucination. It's not fantasy. It's the natural functioning of a perceptual system designed to extract meaning. And under certain mental conditions, clarity, focus, emotional charge, it begins to highlight a reality that feels strangely precise. Now comes the deeper question. If your brain is filtering and interpreting information based on internal states, could reality itself be responding in kind? Could it be that events are not just selected by your perception, but shaped by your attention? To answer that, we need to leave behind the brain and move into the most mysterious frontier of modern science. In the next part, we're going to explore the strange world of quantum phenomena and the emerging theories that hint at a reality far more interactive than we ever imagined. Let's shift our focus now, away from psychology, and into the realm of physics, specifically quantum physics, a field so strange, so counterintuitive, that even the scientists who pioneered it were baffled by its implications. Because here, reality behaves in ways that defy logic. Particles can exist in multiple states at once. Information seems to travel faster than light, and observation itself appears to affect what's real. All of this raises a compelling possibility. That synchronicity, those moments when the outer world aligns with the inner one, might not be mystical at all. They might be quantum. To understand this, let's start with the observer effect. In the famous double-slit experiment, particles of light, or electrons, are fired toward a screen through two slits. When unobserved, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern on the screen. But when observed, when a measuring device watches them, they collapse into particles and form a different pattern. The act of observation changes the outcome. Let that sink in. Just looking at something alters its behavior, not in a psychological sense, but in a physical, measurable one. This has led to some profound questions. Does consciousness play a role in shaping what's real? Does awareness itself collapse possibilities into outcomes? Now imagine this on the scale of everyday life. Your thoughts, your attention, your focused awareness. Could they be interacting with reality in subtle but meaningful ways? Could the choices you observe and the intentions you hold actually help shape which version of reality manifests? This leads us into the concept of quantum potentiality. At the subatomic level, particles don't have fixed locations. Instead, they exist in a cloud of probability, a wave function. It's only when measured or observed that the wave function collapses and the particle takes on a definite position. This means that, at a fundamental level, the universe operates not with certainty, but with potential, and that potential becomes reality only through interaction. The implications for synchronicity are enormous. Because if the universe operates as a field of potential and your mind, your observation, has the power to influence what collapses into form, then the alignments you experience may be the result of a deeper process, one where inner states help determine external outcomes. Now let's talk about quantum entanglement. This phenomenon occurs when two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one instantly influences the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Change the spin of one particle, and the other changes instantly. Not just quickly, instantly, even across vast distances. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. And despite his skepticism, it has now been confirmed repeatedly in experiments. Entanglement shows that information can be transferred non-locally. That is, outside the constraints of space and time as we understand them. This suggests that reality is not entirely local or linear. Events may be connected in ways we can't fully perceive. Could this be part of the mechanism behind synchronicity? Could people, places, and outcomes be entangled through invisible bonds that respond to thought, emotion, or intention? Some physicists and consciousness researchers think it's possible. They propose that consciousness may not be a byproduct of the brain, but a fundamental force, interwoven with the fabric of reality itself. This shifts everything. In this view, the mind is not inside the body. The body is within the field of consciousness, and that field may stretch across time and space, linking you to outcomes, experiences, and people in ways that traditional science struggles to explain. Let's be careful here. These ideas are not universally accepted. The scientific community remains divided on how, or even whether, consciousness interacts with quantum systems. But the theories are gaining attention. And experiments in fields like quantum biology are beginning to show that quantum processes may play roles in living systems, including perception and memory. This convergence between consciousness and quantum physics is still unfolding. But one thing is clear. The old Newtonian model of a clockwork universe, cold, predictable, and indifferent, is no longer enough. We are now looking at a participatory cosmos, one where potential is real, where observation matters, where information moves in ways we don't yet understand. So how does this all relate back to synchronicity? Let's connect the dots. When you think intensely about something, hold a vision, ask a question, or focus your attention on a specific outcome, you may be interacting with fields of potential. You may be collapsing certain possibilities into actuality. You may be selecting timelines, shaping events, or aligning with outcomes through a non-local process. And the more emotionally charged, coherent, and intentional your state, the more precise the effect. In other words, your mind is not just watching reality unfold. It may be participating in the selection of what unfolds. This doesn't mean you control everything, but it suggests that you influence more than you realize. Think of your consciousness as a kind of tuning fork, vibrating at a certain frequency. That frequency interacts with the quantum field of potential, resonating with matching outcomes and attracting configurations of reality that reflect your state. This resonance might be what creates those striking alignments we call synchronicity. They are not accidents. They are reflections, echoes, evidence that your internal signal is being received. And there's another clue. Synchronicities often show up at key moments, decision points, emotional peaks, inner shifts. These are moments when your consciousness is intensified, when your mind is highly coherent, focused, and emotionally charged. From a quantum perspective, this makes sense. High coherence in your system might amplify your influence on the field. It might increase the precision of your signal, and that could lead to more distinct alignments in the external world. So when you experience a synchronistic event, it may not be just perception or belief. It may be a moment of quantum clarity, a moment when your inner state and the universe momentarily align through resonance, attention, and intention. We are only beginning to understand the implications of this, but the message is becoming harder to ignore. Reality may not be fixed. It may not be separate. It may be sensitive, responsive to mind, emotion, and awareness in ways we are just beginning to uncover. So now we ask, if consciousness really can interact with the fabric of reality, what happens when you harness that interaction deliberately? What happens when your thoughts and emotions are not only noticed, but directed? That's where we go next, because the science of synchronicity begins with potential. But it truly comes to life when you learn to shape that potential with intention. So far, we've looked at how your brain detects patterns, and how the quantum world hints at a universe built on potential. Now it's time to explore something even more personal, how your thoughts and emotions might not just interpret reality, but influence it. This is where science meets intention. Let's start with a question most people never ask. What is a thought? Really? It's not just a whisper in your mind. It's a biochemical and electrical event. When you think, your brain fires neurons. Those neurons produce electromagnetic fields. They stimulate hormone production. They influence your body systems. In other words, thought is energy. Emotion is energy. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're measurable biological processes that ripple throughout your system. And those ripples may extend further than we've been taught to believe. Enter the work of the HeartMath Institute. This research organization has spent decades studying the relationship between heart activity, emotional states, and physiological coherence. What they discovered is astonishing. When you experience emotions like gratitude, compassion, or love, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered. This state is called heart coherence. And when you're in it, your brain and heart begin to synchronize. Your nervous system becomes more stable. Your thinking becomes clearer. Your body enters a state of balance. But more than that, this coherent state appears to extend beyond your physical body. Studies show that the electromagnetic field produced by the heart can be detected several feet away. And this field changes depending on your emotional state. This raises a bold possibility. Your emotions might be broadcasting a signal into the environment. A signal that interacts with other people, events, and perhaps even the larger field of reality itself. Let's build on this with another set of experiments, those involving intention and random number generators. These devices produce unpredictable streams of numbers, simulating randomness. But researchers have found that under certain conditions, human intention can subtly shift the output. Groups of people focusing on peace, coherence, or specific mental images appear to influence these machines, consistently and measurably, beyond what chance would predict. Is this proof that thought affects matter? Not definitively, but it's a strong indicator that mind may interact with physical systems in ways we don't yet understand. Even more striking is the placebo effect. It's often dismissed as a medical nuisance, but in reality, it's a profound demonstration of mind-body interaction. When someone believes a treatment will work, even if it's just a sugar pill, their body often produces real, measurable healing responses. Pain decreases, inflammation drops, symptoms vanish. The belief creates the effect. This shows that thought and expectation can trigger physical changes, hormonal, neurological, and even genetic. Your body responds not just to chemicals or surgery, but to belief, perception, and emotion. Let's not overlook emotion, because if thought is the signal, emotion is the charge. Emotion adds depth, weight, and power to intention. A thought without emotion is static. A thought infused with feeling becomes magnetic. This idea isn't just poetic, it's physiological. Emotions activate the autonomic nervous system. They increase electrical activity in the brain and heart. They influence hormones like cortisol, dopamine, and oxytocin. These chemicals shape how you feel, think, and behave, and may also influence what you perceive and attract. Now consider the broader implication. If your thoughts generate a signal and your emotions power that signal, then your overall state of being becomes a kind of transmitter. And this transmitter may be interacting with a field of potential, guiding you toward outcomes that match your internal frequency. This isn't magic. It's alignment. When you're thinking clearly, feeling deeply, and acting intentionally, your system becomes coherent. And in that state, you may be more likely to notice or even generate synchronistic events. Why? Because you're sending a clear signal. And that signal may be influencing the subtle structures of reality in ways we're only beginning to quantify. Let's look at one more layer: frequency. In metaphysical frameworks, everything is vibration. Your body vibrates. Your brain emits waves. Your emotions carry distinct frequencies. Joy, for instance, feels light and expansive. Fear feels tight and heavy. These differences are not just metaphors, they can be measured in brainwave states and heart rhythms. When you maintain elevated states like love, clarity, or enthusiasm, you may be aligning with higher frequencies of reality. Frequencies where synchronicity, flow, and insight are more common. It's not that the world changes. It's that you are now matching a pattern that already exists. This is resonance. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another nearby, if it's tuned to the same frequency, will begin to vibrate. No contact necessary, just resonance. That's how energy travels. That's how systems communicate. That's how alignment occurs. Now scale that up. When your thoughts are focused, your emotions are coherent, and your beliefs are aligned, you may be creating resonance with events, people, or opportunities vibrating at that same frequency. When this resonance hits just right, it shows up as synchronicity. A call at the perfect moment. A solution appearing out of nowhere. A door opening you didn't even know existed. These are not flukes. These are signals. And the sender of the signal is you. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean everything that happens is your doing. Reality is a web of countless influences, not a vending machine for desires. But your signal matters. Your state matters. The universe may not obey your commands, but it might respond to your alignment. So here's the core insight. Your thoughts shape your perception. Your emotions shape your signal. Your coherence shapes your influence. And when all three align, you become an agent, not just an observer of reality. So now the question becomes, if this is how synchronicity begins, can you amplify it? Can you use intention, emotion, and imagination not just to react to life, but to guide it? The answer is yes. But to understand how, we have to explore a concept that's been both celebrated and misunderstood: manifestation. That's what we'll explore next, as we examine how visualization, parallel possibilities, and future timelines may be closer to science than superstition. Reality isn't just unfolding in front of you. It may be unfolding through you, and the direction it takes could depend more on your internal clarity than on external control. Let's talk about manifestation not as fantasy but as a process. One that begins with imagination, deepens with emotion, and potentially connects with the structure of existence itself. First, let's define what manifestation really means. It's not about wishing. It's not about forcing. It's not about demanding reality to obey your desires. At its core, manifestation is about alignment. It's the process of bringing your internal world, your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions into resonance with an outcome. That resonance doesn't cause the outcome in a mechanical sense, but it may position you in time and space where that outcome is more likely to occur. Let's ground this. The brain doesn't distinguish well between imagination and reality. Neuroimaging studies show that visualizing an action activates the same regions of the brain as physically performing it. Whether you're lifting a weight or vividly imagining lifting it, your brain fires similar patterns. This is the science behind visualization. Elite athletes use it. Surgeons use it. Public speakers use it. They mentally rehearse successful outcomes because the mind responds to imagery as if it's real. Repeated visualization builds neural pathways, deepens emotional association, and programs the subconscious mind to accept the imagined scenario as familiar. And the subconscious plays a massive role in behavior. It drives habits, decisions, posture, tone, mood, timing. Most of what you do without conscious awareness. So when your subconscious is aligned with a clear inner vision, your actions naturally follow that path, with less resistance, more precision, and greater synchronicity. Now add emotion. Thoughts are the blueprint. Emotions are the energy. When you combine mental imagery with elevated feeling, like gratitude, love, confidence, you create a magnetic state, one that conditions your nervous system, one that signals to your body and environment. This is real. The key here isn't just to think about what you want. It's to feel as though it's already unfolding. This state creates coherence, and coherence may be what activates alignment. Here's where things get even more intriguing. Some theoretical physicists suggest that multiple versions of reality may exist simultaneously. These ideas arise from interpretations of quantum mechanics, especially the concept of the multiverse or parallel timelines. In these models, every decision, every possibility, spawns alternate outcomes. You're not living in the only version of reality. You're living in the version that corresponds to the sequence of choices, perceptions, and vibrations you've aligned with. This isn't proven, but it's consistent with quantum mathematics. And it leads to a powerful question. If multiple outcomes already exist, then manifestation isn't about creating a future. It's about selecting one. By focusing your mind, feeling the outcome emotionally, and acting in coherence, you might be tuning yourself to a version of reality where that outcome already exists. You're not forcing it into being. You're matching its frequency, like a radio tuning into a station, not inventing the song, but receiving it. And this is where synchronicity plays a critical role. Think of synchronicities as breadcrumbs. Small signs that you're moving toward a version of reality that aligns with your intention. A conversation overheard. A message at just the right time. A sudden insight or opportunity. These aren't accidents. They're reflections of the state you're in and the future you're gravitating toward. When you're aligned, synchronicity increases. Reality seems to open up. Paths appear that you didn't consciously design, yet somehow serve the very outcome you envisioned. But this only happens when your system is unified. If your thoughts say one thing, your emotions feel another, and your actions contradict both. There's no coherence. You send mixed signals. Confusion breeds stagnation, and synchronicity fades. But when everything lines up, when your mind imagines clearly, your heart feels strongly, and your steps match both, reality responds. Because at that point, you're not just thinking about the future. You're embodying it. You're living as though it's already real. And that shifts your position in the timeline. Let's bring in scripting, a technique where you write your ideal scenario as if it's already happened. This anchors the vision. It activates specific language, emotion, and detail, and the act of writing deepens the neural imprint. When done consistently, scripting rewires your internal story, and the story you believe is the story you live. Another tool is mental rehearsal. It's not daydreaming. It's structured, repeatable visualization combined with physical stillness and emotional engagement. The more often you mentally experience a result, the more likely your body and subconscious will move toward it without resistance. You become less reactive, more creative, more perceptive. You start noticing what others miss. You hear the right phrase. You connect the right dots. You feel the nudge that leads you to the right person or the right place. This is not random. This is the manifestation process at work, anchored in focus, emotion, and inner congruence. It's important to mention one final piece. None of this replaces action. Alignment is powerful, but it's not a substitute for movement. What it does is make your movement smarter, more efficient, more precise. You waste less energy. You spend less time forcing, because synchronicity handles what effort can't. It bridges the gap between inner clarity and outer opportunity, connects your vision to the world's timing. It takes what feels like magic and shows you it's actually alignment. So if you've ever felt stuck, like your goals are just out of reach, don't start with force. Start with frequency. Tune your thoughts. Charge them with emotion. Act in harmony. Then watch as the world begins to reflect you back to yourself, in symbols, signs, and sequences that only you can interpret. Because your future may not be waiting to be built. It may be waiting to be recognized. Now comes the real shift. If synchronicity is a language the universe uses, can you learn to speak it fluently? Can you train yourself to live in that state more consistently? That's what we're going to explore next. How to recognize when you're in sync, how to stay in flow, and how to make synchronicity a daily part of your life. You've felt it before. A moment when everything just clicks. Your thoughts are clear. Your energy is calm. Opportunities seem to meet you halfway. This is the state known as flow. And within it, synchronicities don't just appear, they multiply. Reality seems to soften. The line between intention and outcome becomes thin. Events unfold with a quiet elegance that feels both effortless and precise. But this isn't a mood. It's not just feeling good. Flow is a specific physiological and psychological condition. It's a measurable state where your nervous system, attention, and intention are fully aligned with the present moment. And the more often you access it, the more synchronicity becomes your baseline. Let's unpack what it means to live in this kind of alignment and how to stay there more consistently. First, understand this. Flow begins with clarity. Not just about what you want, but about who you are when you want it. Most people chase results without first aligning their state. They act from tension, from fear, from doubt, and as a result, their efforts feel heavy. But flow starts when you stop pushing and start listening. When you ask, what feels naturally exciting? Where do I feel pulled without pressure? What decisions feel light, even if uncertain? These questions tune your awareness. They guide you toward choices that are energetically right, even if they're not yet logically clear. This is where synchronicity thrives, because flow isn't passive. It's responsive. You're not forcing life to bend to your will. You're adjusting your posture to move with the current that's already carrying you. Now let's get specific. There are signs, clear, trackable signs, that indicate when you're moving in sync with your deeper rhythm. First, time distortion. When you're in flow, time either speeds up or slows down. You lose track of the clock. Hours feel like minutes or moments stretch with profound depth. This is because your brainwaves shift. You enter what's known as the theta or alpha state, associated with creativity, intuition, and integration. Second, effortless action. You take steps not from stress, but from certainty. You're not calculating every move, you're responding to signals. Your body, your intuition, and your mind seem to act as one. Third, emotional neutrality with inner confidence. You're not emotionally hijacked. There's a calm, focused presence behind your actions. Even when circumstances are uncertain, you feel internally stable. And fourth, increased synchronicity. You notice patterns, alignments, repetitions that match your current goals or questions. You may hear the same phrase from different sources, or meet someone who offers exactly what you were just thinking about. These events become more frequent, more specific, and harder to ignore. These signs are not fluff. They are data, indicators that your internal state is matching external conditions. When this happens consistently, you are not chasing outcomes. You're aligning with them. But how do you maintain this? The answer is practice. Flow is not accidental. It's trainable. And it begins with one habit: stillness. When you create even small moments of intentional silence, through meditation, breathwork, or focused solitude, you reset your system. You reduce mental noise. You lower cortisol. You stabilize your nervous system. This opens space for insight, clarity, and intuitive guidance. And intuition is key here, because flow is not guided by analysis. It's guided by felt sense. Those subtle inner nudges that defy logic but prove themselves with experience. Cultivating this sense means slowing down enough to hear it. It means trusting small impulses, taking gentle action, observing what unfolds. The more you do this, the more confident you become in your inner compass. And the more you trust it, the more synchronicities arise, because you're moving with a rhythm that's already coherent with the future you're tuning into. Next, track your synchronicities. Write them down. Notice patterns. Begin to treat them not as anomalies, but as signals. The more you document them, the more your awareness sharpens. The brain loves reinforcement. When it sees that these events matter, it begins to highlight more of them. This practice turns sporadic magic into a feedback loop. You stop seeing events as random and start experiencing them as part of a dynamic system in conversation with you. This doesn't mean you become passive. In flow, you still act. You still plan. You still lead. But you do so with feedback, responsiveness, and agility. You listen. You adjust. You move in real time. Now here's the critical point. Flow does not mean constant ease. It means honest alignment. Sometimes that includes challenge, discomfort, stretch. But you know it's right because there's a deeper harmony underneath the effort. It's not resistance, it's growth. And this kind of challenge produces the strongest synchronicities. Because when you're stretched, your system is fully activated. You're paying attention. You're emotionally engaged. And that combination makes your signal stronger, clearer, and more influential. So how do you live in flow consistently? You commit to presence over prediction. You follow inspiration more than obligation. You treat synchronicities not as exceptions, but as direction. And when they appear, you act. You acknowledge them. You move with the signal. Because the more you act on alignment, the more it amplifies. You become a participant in a larger pattern. Not because you control it, but because you listen to it. You move with it. You trust it. And that trust transforms everything. By now, you've seen that synchronicity is not random. It's not superstition. It's not spiritual decoration. It's a signal. It's feedback. It's the language of a responsive universe, speaking directly to you. And once you learn to read that language, reality becomes less about control and more about connection. Now the question isn't whether synchronicity is real. The question is, are you paying attention? Are you in a state where you can receive? Are you listening, not just with your ears, but with your whole system? Because the more you notice, the more it multiplies. In our final part, we're going to bring it all together. A clear recap, a challenge to your awareness, and a perspective shift that may stay with you long after this video ends. The signs have always been there. A phrase heard twice in one day, a number that keeps repeating, a message that arrives just when you need it most. An opportunity that fits like it was built for you. You've seen it, you've felt it, and maybe for a long time you brushed it off. But now, you know better. You've learned that these moments are not just chance. They are reflections of something deeper. A dialogue between your inner state and the fabric of the world around you. Let's bring everything together. You began this journey with a question. Is it possible that reality responds to thought? Now you have a framework. From Carl Jung's concept of synchronicity to the latest in quantum theory and neuroscience, the message is becoming clear. Your mind doesn't just process the world. It participates in it. When your brain detects patterns, it's not creating meaning from nothing. It's selecting meaning from a complex web of possibilities. Your reticular activating system tunes your awareness. Your beliefs guide what you see. Your subconscious mind influences when you act. And that means, the more coherent your thoughts, the clearer your perception. The clearer your perception, the more aligned your actions. And the more aligned your actions, the more synchronistic your reality becomes. Add in emotion, especially elevated, heart-based feeling, and the signal gets stronger. Your entire system enters a state of coherence. And that coherence isn't just internal. It radiates. It influences how you show up, how you respond, and what you attract. Quantum theory suggests that this interaction may go further. That your observation collapses potential. That your attention selects timelines. That your state of being is a tuning fork for the version of reality you experience. This isn't metaphysics dressed up as science. This is science beginning to brush up against the edges of something it still doesn't fully understand. And it's not just theory. You've seen how practical this can be. You've explored how visualization rewires the brain, how emotional coherence changes physiology, how intention influences behavior, and possibly even random systems. You've understood that manifestation is not a wish. It's not a shortcut. It's not fantasy. It is the process of mental, emotional, and behavioral alignment with a specific outcome, not forcing that outcome into existence, but matching the version of reality in which that outcome already exists. This is where synchronicity becomes your compass. It shows up as guidance, as signal, as feedback from a universe that may be more intelligent, more alive, and more responsive than you were ever taught to believe. So here's your challenge. Start paying attention. Don't wait for something massive. Begin small. Notice what keeps showing up. Notice the coincidences that feel emotionally charged. Notice when time seems to shift, when effort feels effortless, and when your actions seem to fit into something larger than your plan. Write it down. Reflect. Track the connections. And above all, respond. When a synchronistic moment appears, act on it. Even a small step sends a signal. Even a single choice taken in alignment reinforces the pattern. Because synchronicity doesn't just reflect your state, it strengthens it. The more you respond, the more the system begins to organize around your signal. The more consistent your internal world, the more consistent your external feedback. This is not about superstition. It's not about abandoning logic or discipline. It's about recognizing that logic and discipline work best when aimed by a deeper intelligence. That intelligence lives within you. It shows up through intuition, through emotion, through resonance, and it connects you to a field of experience much wider than your five senses can capture. Now imagine, not hypothetically but practically, living this way, waking up each day attuned, moving with clarity, not confusion, trusting the signals, not fearing the silence, knowing that the path will unfold as you walk it, not because you forced it, but because you matched it. That's the invitation. Not to believe blindly, not to chase magic, but to experiment with attention, with awareness, with alignment. To treat synchronicity not as a miracle, but as feedback. To treat life not as a puzzle to solve, but a relationship to nurture. So the next time a moment strikes you as too perfect to be chance, pause, feel it, acknowledge it, and ask, what part of me just lined up with this? Because that question reveals something no one else can answer. It opens the doorway between your intention and your experience. And the more you ask it, the more answers arrive, not just in thought but in life. The signs are already around you. They always have been. You don't need to chase them. You just need to tune in. So stay aware. Stay aligned. Stay in flow. And the next time reality echoes your thoughts, you'll know exactly what's happening. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's synchronicity. And now you understand the science behind it. Thank you for watching. Until next time, pay attention. The universe might just be speaking.